Secretary Napolitano, I welcome you back to the committee. I think that you have one of the hardest jobs in America, maybe second or third hardest. President wins on that. You and Mike can fight out who's second and who's third. I think you are doing a terrific job that I think you personally are underappreciated. I think your department is underfunded, and I think this incident may help us solve that underfunding problem. Your problem doesn't have to be solved, because I told you before the hearing just a few moments ago started. As far as I'm concerned, you wear 4 stars on each shoulder. Director Leiter, this is the first time circumstances have combined to have you be testifying before the Commerce Committee. You're a very lucky man. As chairman of the Intelligence Committee, I had the pleasure of working with you on matters relating to intelligence reform. And as you know, I expressed my feelings then, how impressed I was at the job that you were doing then and you are doing now. We've had a very serious problem. There's the question of accountability. That's a hard thing to solve. It's also sometimes not a wise thing to solve in the first few minutes in public. Sometimes it's good to know what you're talking about before you get into that. And I know my colleagues will recognize your tremendous, profound expertise in understanding what it takes to meet our responsibilities. So I am very grateful that you are here for our committee and that you serve as you do. I know that you've been working around the clock. I've been a governor, but I don't think even that comes even close to the pressure that both of you, the cabinet secretary and CTC, et cetera, that what that amounts to in the way of pressure, sleeplessness, trying to find out how we can do better. That's the purpose of this hearing. We're going to stay on this subject most of this year. We're going to get it right. There's a very serious thing that happened. The fact that nobody was killed and nobody was particularly injured except perhaps the perpetrator and 1 or 2 others in minor way, belies the fact that had things gone according to the way they were meant to, 252 people would have died 20 minutes outside of Detroit. I tend to think of it in terms of what I just said as opposed to the fact that nothing happened. And I think that's the way you look at it too. Lee Hamilton and Tom Kane, you are welcome anywhere at any time, and you're an asset to the nation, both of you. Maybe you're just one person, I don't know. But you have brought more wisdom and challenged us in more ways. I asked each of you to be tough on us in your questioning, answer to questions or matters that you want to raise, because this is the time for us to hear clearly from those who have watched wisely from the outside, but really on the inside. Thank you again for coming. Okay, so the Christmas terror attack told us that we need to further harden our defenses and evaluate if we're doing everything we can to meet an evolving al-Qaeda terrorist threat or perhaps non-al-Qaeda terrorist threats. Domestic problems, discontent, all of the instability that rules throughout our country, fear throughout the world, the fear, the hopelessness, all of this combines to produce exactly the wrong kind of people doing exactly the wrong kinds of things, but they think it's for the right reason. And if they seek martyrdom, it's pretty hard to argue and win them over. The threat to America is real, and we have to get it absolutely right. And our problem, of course, is that we have to get it right 100% of the time. Their problem is they have to get it right once. And that's not fair, but that's the world we live in, and that's what we need to deal with on this committee, as well as other committees. A man with a bomb was able to board a plane headed for America, so it's obvious and clear that our system failed. cannot be disputed. I know that every day, countless unsung American heroes are working in your agencies, working 17-hour days, 7 days a week, and going through every scrap of information. People have no idea, it's classified, people have no idea of the amount of information that comes in each day to the various intelligence agencies, and you get the brunt of it, Director Leiter. And so the question is, how do you pick one thing from another? And the answer is that it seems to be impossible, and that it can't be the answer. The answer is we got to get it right. How come this guy got a visa? How did he get a visa? How come it was what he said, what his father told to the American embassy was not considered a clarion call? Potential answer, all those things come in all the time. Other potential answer is we should have hearkened to that and responded to that and made sure that he never got on an airplane. So I tremendously value, I'm still on the Intelligence Committee, and I still do, the people that work so hard to try to get it right. 7 men and women of the CIA recently killed in Afghanistan. They don't make it home. So while we have a responsibility to be frank about where we've fallen short, we must also honor their service. I want that to be very, very clear. We can do that by building on the progress that we've made since the 9/11 attacks, with an eye towards making smart and specific improvements that keep us safe. Easy to say, hard to do. 9 years ago, our intelligence agencies did not even share information, largely because they could not, by law. First bill that we passed. Yes, CIA and FBI, you can talk to each other. Stunning. Less than a decade ago. And their information systems weren't interoperable. Part of that's true still today. And because they would not, agencies too often preferred to stovepipe information rather than share it. That was the past. How much is that of the present? We will talk. Since then, as Mr. Leiter will testify, we have made enormous strides. Today, our systems and practices are far superior than those that were allowed 19 men to execute the global plan to commit the horrific acts of 9/11. But we're not fail-safe. We haven't gotten there yet. And yet, just weeks ago, our system still allowed a terrorist to board Flight 253 with sophisticated explosives. This was a grave and multi-layered failure. The intelligence community did not piece together clues about this man's connections to terrorism, clues that were available, including from his father. It's my general impression it doesn't fall within the habit of Islamic behavior for a father to go in and, in a sense, give up his son, or even more for us then to ignore it, that being such a unique and stunning thing for a father to do. The State Department and the Department of Homeland Security allowed this man to board the airplane with a valid U.S. visa. The Brits hadn't given him one a couple years before. We gave him one that lasts for 2 years. And the international airport screening that we depend on did not detect this man was carrying a potentially devastating explosive device. One of my questions, Madam Secretary, is going to be about the meeting that you take off for tomorrow, the 21st and the 22nd, with Europeans. How do we, in this tiny, tiny little world, how can somebody just pass through Amsterdam without any American eyes alighting upon him or her or what their situation might be? So we have a responsibility to be brutally honest about where we have fallen short. We have to do better. And the basic fact that will drive much of this committee's work in the year ahead is trying to make it all better. I promise you that. I promise my colleagues that. We have to do better protecting our families, safeguarding our communities, securing our nation. Nobody was injured. Nobody was killed. Not in my head. Malfunction, 252 would have died. So this is at the top of our agenda for this year, bringing the attention, the resources, and the leadership needed to provide an improvement in our citizens' safety and security. This committee intends to continue asking the tough questions, to shape the policies that guide transportation security in all of its modes. And by that I mean our port security, our chemical security, our cyber security, and the list goes on. We have oversight of that here. Have we exercised it sufficiently? Perhaps not. Today's hearing on aviation security represents an opportunity to bring to the table key issues that demand all of our attention. And I want to invite my colleagues to bring their new ideas as we work together to develop concrete solutions that advance our security efforts and make us safer. Let me end with 5 suggestions. Some key solutions I believe we can and must seriously consider. Requiring U.S.-bound aircraft and international airports to meet more rigorous security requirements, and not letting our cumbersome international negotiating as a process slow us down. Is that possible? According to international protocol, it is not. It has to be possible. We cannot talk this thing to death. We are a tiny little globe, interlocked. 2, engaging a major new effort to develop and deploy advanced imaging technologies, which means more money, more accuracy, and getting serious about stopping any programs that do not work. So then we have the question of civil liberties versus national security. Forever a problem, forever rightly a problem, but we cannot tread lightly on what we do on national security. 3, improving and in some cases mandating better information sharing among TSA, intelligence agencies, and even commercial airlines. I invited an airline to be at this hearing today. They declined. They declined. I was not happy. And I don't know what that tells us, but it tells us that we're all in this together and everybody has to do their part and nobody has a safe haven. We need to do more to establish the partnership between government and the private sector when it comes to security. 4, making the watch list more accurate on the one hand and more dynamic on the other, expanding the universe of people who receive secondary screening. I'm a believer in that. Reevaluating our screening criteria, and then doing something called educating the public in advance about what may become more stringent scrutiny at airports. Our public understands this very well. They've been through the beginning of TSA. They've been through shoe bomber and taking off the shoes. Have they liked it? No. Have they complied with it? Yes, because they understand what the stakes are. So we need partnership with the flying public also. And finally, number 5, requiring coordination between the valuable resources we have at our embassies, especially our regional security offices, and the TSA to identify threats emanating from overseas airports. Believe it or not, this is not always happening today. And it did not happen in this case. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's something to start with. All of this obviously is going to require raising new revenues. That's always a problem in the United States Senate. But doing nothing is not an option. I don't know how you improve security. I don't know how you put in better machinery. I don't know how you get to the WBIs, not just 40, but the 900 you want by 2014 without more money, more training for our our security people. So the need is clear and transparent. The way is hard and difficult, but it is our obligation. I look forward to our witnesses' testimony as we work together and make our transportation system as safe as possible. Just, Madam Vice Chair, if I can just say that I'm sure that our colleagues all know that Errol Struthers withdrew his name for head of TSA today, and our national security system has lost a skilled law enforcement officer who had needed expertise and leadership qualities because of, I would call it political games, but I'm not going to, I'll just scratch that from the record. Anyway, it's a real shame. It's a real shame. So now we've got to go out and find another one and vet them in the way that Americans can, which takes a long time. We don't have a long time. I'm confident that the President will very quickly nominate a new candidate to run TSA, and I'm committed to seeing that that person gets through the process.